Illinois is a state of towering cities with streets that never truly sleep and rural landscapes where the night swallows sound. Its history is thick with stories of innovation, ambition, and progress, but also with mysteries that refuse to fade. The winters there are unforgiving. In the city, the cold settles between the brickwork, creeping under doors, and in the countryside, wind sweeps across empty fields like a warning. And sometimes the cold doesn't just come from the weather, it comes from the silence that follows tragedy when answers never arrive. Welcome back to the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and I'm so glad you've joined me for another episode of 12 Unsolved. I've decided to start breaking up each episode in this series into two parts. So for each state, we'll have 2 episodes of 6. I found that I can be much more productive with shorter episodes. In this 2-part episode, we'll explore 12 of Illinois' most haunting unsolved cases, crimes where the truth is still locked away and justice remains just out of reach. We begin in Chicago, 1956, with two sisters who stepped out for an afternoon at the movies and vanished into the heart of winter. On December 28, 1956, the streets of Chicago were cold and slick with winter's grip, and the city's neighborhoods hummed with the muted rhythm of the post-holiday lull. That evening, 15-year-old Barbara Grimes and her 12-year-old sister Patricia set out for the Brighton Park Theater to see Elvis Presley's Love Me Tender. The girls were huge Elvis fans and had joined his official fan club and had his smile tucked away in scrapbooks and daydreams. Their mother expected them home before midnight. When the clock crept past that hour and they still hadn't returned, she sent 2 of her older children to wait for them at the bus stop. 3 buses passed, but the sisters were on none of them. The search began immediately, but instead of a full-scale hunt, authorities leaned on a theory that their parents begged them not to believe, and that was that Barbara and Patricia had simply run away. The runaway story was so persistent that even Graceland got involved, sending out a plea for the girls to come home. The autopsy reports for both girls confirmed that they were killed likely within 5 hours of their disappearance. Barbara had wounds to her chest that appeared to have been inflicted with an ice pick. She also had blunt force trauma to her head and face. Patricia had numerous bruises on her body. Their official death certificate states their cause of death as murder, and the means was secondary shock. In the weeks they were missing, dozens of people claimed to have seen them, but none of those sightings could be confirmed. There have been numerous suspects over the years, but no one has ever been arrested for the girls' murder. If you have any information about their case, please contact the Chicago Police Department, 9th District, at 312-747-8227. It was just 3 weeks before Christmas in 1957, and 7-year-old Maria Ridulph and her best friend Kathy were playing in the snow on a street corner near Maria's house in the small town of Sycamore. According to testimony that Kathy gave in 2012, a man named Johnny approached the two girls and offered to give Maria a piggyback ride and asked if he could see their toys. Kathy said she ran home to get her mittens, and when she returned, Johnny and Maria were gone. Maria's father soon went searching for his young daughter after Kathy had told the family the girl was gone. After having no luck finding her, he reported Maria as missing 2 hours later. It took over 4 months before Maria's body was discovered in a wooded area in Woodbine, Illinois, roughly 100 miles away. For decades, Maria's case stayed cold until July 2011, when police arrested John Tessier, who was then going by the name Jack McCullough, and charged him with kidnapping and murder. He was convicted in 2012 and sentenced to life in prison. But in 2016, everything unraveled. Evidence surfaced showing that on the day Maria disappeared, John had been in Rockford for a military physical exam. His conviction was overturned, the charges were dropped, and the case was once again unsolved, which is where it remains today. If you have any information about Maria's death, please contact the Sycamore Police Department at 815-895-2123. It was the height of summer in East Moline, Illinois, August 14th, 1981, when 19-year-old Regina McCorkle vanished without a trace. Though young, she had already lived a life marked by big changes. Recently divorced, a mother to a 2-year-old son, and living back in her mother's home. That day, her mother returned from work to find something odd. Both the front and back doors were locked from the inside. Unable to get in, she had to break into her own home. Inside, the house was quiet. Regina was gone, but her toddler son was found locked in one of the bedrooms. The only thing missing from the house was the nightgown that Regina had worn the night before. Everything else, her clothes, purse, even her recently purchased Mustang with a full tank of gas, was still there. The bed she'd slept in was unmade, which, according to her mother, was unlike Regina. The only possible way out appeared to be through a basement window. The screen had been removed and lay on the floor, but investigators couldn't determine whether it had been taken out from the inside or the outside. There were no signs of a struggle. That morning, Regina had spoken to her boyfriend on the phone, telling him she planned to pick him up and take him to apply for a job, but she never arrived. She also failed to show up for work that day and didn't call in. Her boyfriend passed a polygraph and was cleared. Her ex-husband, however, refused to take the test, claiming that he had stopped by her house around 10 o'clock that morning, knocked on the door, and then left when no one answered. Regina's case remains unsolved and foul play is suspected. If you have any information about her disappearance, please contact the East Moline Police Department at 309-752-1555. On March 29, 1984, 26-year-old Lisa Carnes left her 2 young children in the care of her mother for the day in Karnak, Illinois. But Lisa never returned. By midnight, her mother reported Lisa missing. The next afternoon, blood was discovered on the back porch of an empty house in the quiet farmlands of rural Massac County. Later that afternoon, a farmer found Lisa's body lying naked in an open field. Investigators believe Lisa may have been desperately running for help towards the house, only to find it empty, forcing her back into the darkness. Her body bore only minor bruises, possibly from falling as she fled. The fatal wound was a single gunshot to the back. No one has ever been named as a suspect in Lisa's murder, and no one has come forward to break the silence that surrounded this case for over 4 decades. If you have any information about the murder of Lisa Carnes, please contact the Illinois State Police Zone 7 at 618-845-3740. August 2nd, 1985, was a warm summer night, and 29-year-old Janette Johnson, a mother of 2, went out with friends to the Party House Bar in Kankakee, Illinois. By the time she returned home, the night was quiet. She parked her car behind the house, and her daughter, Jaretha, heard the sound of her footsteps approaching the door. Pretending to be asleep, she never saw her mother walk inside. By morning, it was as if Janette had vanished between the car and the front door. Her vehicle was no longer behind the house either. It was now parked out front in the street. One of the windows was rolled down part way. There was a cigarette in the ashtray, and her coat and purse were on the seat, untouched. Jaretha called her mother's workplace and then her grandmother. Soon, Janette was officially reported missing. Months passed without answers. In late 1985, human remains were discovered in a rural part of eastern Kankakee County. At the time, they couldn't be identified. For 35 years, the case sat in limbo until November of 2020, when DNA testing confirmed that the remains belonged to Janette. Her case was no longer a disappearance, but a homicide. Janette's daughter continues to seek justice for her mother's murder. If you have any information about the disappearance and murder of Janette Johnson, please contact the Kankakee Police Department at 815-933-3321. On July 20th, 1990, a farmer tending his bean field in rural Troy, Illinois, came across something no one ever expects to find. There, amid the green rows, lay the body of a woman. She was naked except for sandals and a ring. Pieces of clothing were scattered nearby, forming a trail that led directly to where she had been left. Investigators determined she had been killed just 2 or 3 days earlier. The autopsy revealed multiple stab wounds to her neck and torso. It was a violent and personal attack. But there was no identification and no missing person reports matched her description, so she became a Jane Doe. For more than 3 decades, she remained anonymous. Then, in late 2024, advanced DNA testing finally pulled her out of the shadows. She was 30-year-old Winona Nadine Michael. When detectives notified her family, they learned Winona had last been seen in May of 1990, when she had traveled back to her home state of Tennessee for a visit. How she ended up in that farm field remains a question that no one has yet been able to answer. Winona's case remains under investigation. If you have any information about her death, please contact the Madison County Sheriff's Office at 618-296-4433. And that's where we'll pause for now. The cases we've covered in this first part have taken us from crowded city blocks to lonely back roads, each story threaded with the same chilling truth. Someone out there still knows what happened. But we're only halfway through Illinois' coldest mysteries. In part 2, we'll travel deeper into the state, into places where the land feels older, the shadows heavier, and the questions even more unsettling. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your support more than you know. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment as this helps the channel grow. And if you want to be notified when I put out a new video, make sure that you have notifications all checked. Otherwise, YouTube will just let you see what it thinks you want to see. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.